On today's show, our beloved Haseong Kim is heading to the Rays, reacting to that for what has been a dreadful offseason before getting into my chat with Mr. Tyson Neighbors, 2024 draftee, fourth rounder for the San Diego Padres, about everything from analytics to favorite foods to, his approach, getting really nerdy with it, analytics, all sorts of stuff. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Friday, January. Is it January? I think it is, right? Is it January 31st? As always, I am your host, with sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can check me out on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Also, go check out Just Baseball, where I work on a bunch of writings, currently power ranking, actually, the most miserable moments of the Padres season. That should be up soon. And also, working on their newsletter to get you updated on all the latest, free agent signings and what have you. Today's episode, guys, is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. And getting started with today's show, guys, before we get into my interview with Tyson, just want to just talk really quickly about Haseong Kim signing with Tampa Bay Rays, 2 years, $29 million. Look, I actually ended up talking with Tyson for longer than I had anticipated, so this isn't going to be too long, my thoughts on this, but look, it just adds up to what has been a really bad offseason, right? I mean, he put it together in just 121 games, 2.6 wins over replacement. He didn't have as much of a, I think, upsurge in his offensive ability that I think people had expected, but he's still a really high floor bat who's going to play great defense. The reason he didn't go for a lot more is probably due to a little bit of an injury shoulder issue that he has, and that's kind of the only reason. But I think it just stinks that, even for a player that is going for less than I think he would have got if he was fully healthy and all that stuff, that the Padres are still clearly not in any contention for him. And I'm going to miss him. He was a really big part of this team. He was a player that, if I'm going to be positive, it's not the same profile, it's not the same circumstances, especially, as an international free agent when they signed him. But I just want to remind everyone that, in fairness, Haseong Kim was not always beloved, right? He put up only 0.4 wins his first year in 117 games, according to Fangraphs. He wasn't very good, but he also didn't have consistent playing time. And I'm just saying that, players can get better, and that's totally possible, right? I know it sounds like I'm grasping at straws, but I do think it's worth pointing that out because Haseong Kim was not very good his first year. This is a guy who had a 71 WRC plus. He couldn't hit. And then the next year, all he did was become an average hitter, and all of a sudden he was like a fringe all-star, right? Because of his defense and his glove. And I just want everyone to keep that in mind, that Haseong Kim was not beloved from the beginning. So there are players out there. There is hope out there, and just a reminder that you can't always project everything. Everyone assumed that we were going to just have an awful time at shortstop and that Abrams had to be called up, and look what happened with Kim, right? Having multiple good seasons, and was literally one of the only bright spots of 2023 when he put up 4.2 wins above replacement, and him and Blake Snell for the Cy Young. That was it kind of in him, and I'm going to miss him though. I think he was probably, over the course of hosting this podcast, one of the most universally liked players. I don't think anyone ever post his rookie year ever really criticized him, right? I wrote an article for Just Baseball about how he was the Padres' secret weapon heading into the 2022 season, right? I was so amped for him because I just thought this guy has really good defensive skills, and that adds up. So really big bummer to see him go, and it's just added onto the list of all the things that have made this offseason really hard to watch. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting as many others to retain everybody, but it is unfortunate how many players we've seen leave. Haseong Kim, I don't think, was expected to stay with the team, given their glut of shortstop and infielders, and the fact that Leota DeVries, their top prospect, is a shortstop, or at least an infield quality player. So it's not surprising, but it does just add on to the fact of dang, I'm going to miss him, and it's overall been a really tough offseason for the Padres. So let me know, guys, if you have any other questions about Haseong Kim, though. For Monday's mailbag, reach me at Twitter/X or Blue Sky at the handle. And then also leave me some YouTube comments. Love responding to you guys. That'll be Monday. But that's it. That's basically it. The show must go on, ladies and gentlemen. And with that being said, now let's get into my chat with Tyson Neighbors. It was a fun one for a fun Friday episode. Let's get to it. That's right, everybody. Only the most illustrious guests here on the Locked On Padres podcast. Happy to have you all joining me. And my guest of today's show, again, only illustrious guests. I cannot emphasize that enough. Kansas State Go Wildcats alum, right-handed pitching phenom stud for the Lake Eisner Storm, single A affiliate of your San Diego Padres. Mr. Tyson Neighbors, how are you doing on this fine when we're recording Thursday evening?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great, man. Just hanging in there. We're in a weird kind of beginning of the year stretch. You know what I mean? The football's winding down and whatnot. That's going to be interesting. I guess how that all breaks down. And then baseball's like this sounds bad, I don't mean it, but this like looming threat in the background, I guess, with pitchers and catchers reporting soon. You guys obviously getting into minor league season and all that sort of stuff. So happy to have you on the show, man. But first, before we talk about the minor league stuff, I guess, I want to just ask you, just being drafted, in your case, for those curious, with the 118th pick, for Friar Padres fans, that is the fourth player they took overall in their draft in 2024. Can you kind of like just talk about that experience? Where were you? What was kind of the vibe heading into? What was the vibe heading out? I imagine it was great, but just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I had a bunch of friends and family over at my house. Kind of going into it, we had no idea kind of where I'd go. I mean, it was all just up in the air, and had to see how the draft went and, how they selected before and things like that. And just kind of anxious sitting there and, patiently waiting, but, eager to get to work. And the Mariners actually called first, and I locked in the pick with them. So I thought, I went upstairs. I didn't want to tell anyone. I told my parents I wasn't going to tell them who I'm on the phone with, anything. The Mariners called, and they were like, okay, we're picking you. I think they had like 120 maybe, pick 120.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, cool. Hung up, came downstairs, and I get another call from the Padres. And so I came back upstairs, answered the phone. They're like, hey, you're going to go 118? I was like, sweet, let's do it. Let's get to work. So came down. Actually, my area scout, Steve Moritz, called me before they drafted me on the TV. He was like congratulating me. So he called, and he answers the phone. I'm like, don't say anything, please. And he's like, oh, my bad. It's a little delayed. So he just sat there, and it was totally unknown to anyone but me. And all my friends, family, everybody's super excited, and it was a cool moment, to figure out where I'm going to be, put in the work for the rest of my career, hopefully. And I know things happen, but here's the starting spot. So.
But what I really like is I feel like, again, maybe I'm just a casual. I always hear from players in any sport that they heard about, oh, this team might take you here. I've never heard hey, we're going to take you with the 120th, and then another team before that calls up. So I just think that that's really interesting. That must have been, I imagine that must have been just a thrill. Did you have any kind of preconceived vibes about not even necessarily just the Padres, but just San Diego as a whole, just that being kind of the area that you'd be, hopefully progressing to?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I still don't even know really what it's like. I mean, I know the fans of the Padres are awesome and great community. I mean, they sell out the stadium all the time. They're always backing up their players, no matter what. So I love the vibe I'm getting. I still haven't been able to have the opportunity to go out to San Diego and, experience that. I'd love to go watch a game, and obviously I'd love to play in a game.
Yeah.
Sooner than later. But from everything I've heard about it, I mean, I've heard the city's great. A lot of great food spots from what I hear. Great location, great vibes. And, I mean, the big league team, I mean, they're just full of energy. It seems like a club you'd really want to play for, be happy playing for.
Absolutely, as the unbiased host of Locked On Padres, I agree. And Tyson, while we don't share athletic similarities, I can confirm we do have one, and it's that I have not visited San Diego either. I am on the East Coast, so I can't wait to try the food myself. Might this summer. We'll see what happens, I guess, for both of us in that regard. But now I just want to talk about this is something I ask everybody because I genuinely think that, you know, when it comes to the draft process, when it comes to college players, when it comes to the process into the majors, for whatever sport, I feel like minor league players don't get as much of an attention. And specifically, I feel like there might be some misconceptions about that. So I ask this to every player. What do you think are some misconceptions about the life of a minor leaguer in every kind of respect, about your prep, all sorts of things like that?
I mean, I
If,
think,
if any, sometimes there's none.
no,
Yeah.
I think before, I actually experienced it. I mean, I was only in Lake Elsinore for maybe 3-4 weeks, but kind of before that, and like growing up, it was always like, you hear the minor league horror stories, like it's brutal, like you're living with 7 people in the same house, like
Mhm.
food's tough, like I mean now with MLBPA agreements and stuff to where housing's paid for, um, we're provided with plenty of meals to feed us good and everything like that. And as far as preparation, it's definitely a lot more on your own than like college and um, things like that, like summer ball. I'd say it's kind of similar to, it's like the closest vibe you can get, but it's just like, you're on your own, you get your stuff done, get yourself prepared for the game and, go about your business. It kind of, I think, does a good job of weeding out the guys, who maybe aren't as prepared or don't want to put in the work. It kind of, you can separate yourself, from those guys by just, getting your stuff done, locking in and, loving the game. So.
Absolutely, man. When it comes to locking in this period of the year, the ramp up, not just for the games, but just the whole season, really, because baseball is such this like year-round sport where it's just you got to do the prep, you got to do the research a lot. I know that you're a big fan of research and all the nerdy stuff, which we'll get to in a little bit. But just as a reliever, primarily, do you have any things that you look to as you prepare for 2025, like and being ramped up? I guess, in getting prepared for baseball season as we're getting out of the cold and into the summer months.
Yeah, obviously ramping up my body, arm, making sure everything's nice, fluid, smooth, and I say smooth. It's smooth for me. I think I look like I throw max effort, and I probably do, but trying to make it look as effortless as I can, make it, make sure everything's functioning right, but also mentally preparing. It's baseball can be tough on the mind, and I think that's where some guys can also separate themselves is in the mental game. It's such an up and down, sport in general. Just being on top of the mental side, praying, meditating, things like that, just to keep you level headed and not get too high, but not get too low.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the most underrated thing I think about baseball is always the mental side. I am constantly in awe of you guys. Just speaking from a batter's perspective for a second, this is not like the other sports where you strike out, you're not guaranteed to get redemption
Yeah.
immediately. You have to wait. And I think that there's such a NBA basketball, you miss a shot. I'm not saying that's easy, but at least you can get back on defense and maybe you do something there, right? It's constantly moving. The up and down, I think, of baseball is kind of frankly from afar it sounds like a nightmare to deal with, I think.
Especially as a reliever. It's like I can go out there back to back to back nights, or I could throw one night and then not throw again for a week or 10 days.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely, man.
not like this, like, yeah, if you're a starter, you're starting every 5 days, whatever your rotation is, but like relieving's all over the place, right? So it's just always unexpected. You don't know where your next opportunity is. So
Yeah, and I know in your case, forget just like the back-to-back days, sometimes innings, right? Sometimes you go 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever,
yeah.
primarily as a reliever in your case, but still like that's just must be a whole lot. And now I want to talk about, oh, actually, before we move on from that, do you have any like dumb pregame ritual that you do? It feels like every athlete, it's just the most mixed response. I know some guys who are like, yeah, I just eat, one snack. And other guys are like, yeah, I like, post this one thing over here. And then so do you have anything kind of that ilk?
I'm not really superstitious. I don't really, if I do have a pregame routine, I don't I don't maybe see it as a routine right now. I'm not really sure. I kind of get my body right, my mind right. I mean, I listen to music, I'll throw the football around, say a prayer, like things like that. But it's not anything superstitious to where it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't do X, Y, Z, like I'm screwed. Like
Yeah.
it's get to feel good and get locked in for the game.
There's actually just random, but just for listeners out there, there's a movie called Everybody Wants Some. There's a funny conversation about superstitions in that movie. So just find it on YouTube if you guys want to see it and get back to me. It's very funny. But guys, we're going to talk a little bit more with Tyson about not just the kind of nerdy side of things and just, heading in deep with sliders, all that sort of stuff, but also get into the rapid fire in just a second, guys. But first, a word from some of our sponsors. That's right, guys. The sponsors, they pay the bills, and I got to talk to you about one of them, and it's one of our favorites. It is Gametime, ladies and gentlemen. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. I remember the excitement, the energy of when I go to, frankly, forget football playoff games, just any game. It's really fun, especially for football. And Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It's really great, man. They've got super deals, which are especially impressive, offering the best value for every event. And also, it's not just sports, concerts, theater, comedy, whatever, right? Like, they've got all sorts of tickets all over the place, all sorts of deals up to the game, prices going down, close to the game time, all sorts of stuff. No pun intended there. But take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Gametime. And just like that, everybody, we are back here on the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing as always. Here with Tyson Neighbors, single A affiliate pitcher for the San Diego Padres, drafted recently as well in 2024. We just talked about that in segment number 1. But Tyson, now I want to ask you about, there was a great Fangraphs piece from Michael Bauman where you guys talked about just I think it was titled Jocks Are Nerds Now Too and whatnot, which is a great title. With you, with the whiff rate, right? 73% on your slider in 2024, all of that. Can you just talk about how did this come about? Like, how does this come about? How is it that you go from on field in person, you're playing, and then you have all these graphs showing your induced vertical break, right? All the different whiff rates, all the different locations, your release point. How do you think you incorporate that, and how much do you embrace it, I think?
I mean, I think that's something that I dove into kind of from early on in college. I say I was a thrower, not really a pitcher before that.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like embraced the PO role in my freshman year of college and try to just figure out everything about it. I mean, I grew up as a football player and an outfielder, and I like kind of could throw hard and had like a decent slider, but I was like kind of oblivious to, mechanics side of pitching and even the analytics side. And the analytical side just kind of like, I don't know, I put a spark in my brain. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, let's see where I can, maybe grab a competitive advantage from this. And freshman to sophomore year, I kind of revamped all my arsenal. It was like my mechanics were brutal. I didn't throw strikes. Like, I would go out there and I'd be 89, 92 one day, and then the next day I'd be 95, 97, and I had no idea why. Like, I was literally just throwing the ball.
Just chucking it out there, yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. And I kind of like did a deep dive with pitching coach back home and even our new pitching coach, Coach Darrow, and was like, I was throwing like sidearm at the time. But every time, like the days I would like throw hard on accident is what I said, I would like raise up, do like postural, like my arm would stay the same, but posture would kind of tilt over. It's like, why not just try and throw like that all the time? Like, let's see if I can throw like over the top. And so I had some good induced vertical break on the fastball plus even, and then try to build an arsenal around that. So I went with I had a slider from down here as a sweeper. I was getting like -20 horizontal, but it was like, I could never throw in the zone enough, and I wasn't in the zone enough anyway with my fastball. I was like, got to find a slider I can throw from up here. So incorporated the gyro slider. And then I think we were talking about they misclassify a lot of times my curveball,
Yes.
the
Yes.
slider. So we added the 12-6 curveball, and then actually this past offseason I've added a cutter with like some cut ride to it. Interested to bring that out and excited for everyone to kind of see what that's going to be like. And yeah, I don't throw a change up or a Vulcan or split or none of that. Everything's, straight or glove side. So
What do you find difficult? I guess one of the things that I'm always fascinated with pitchers when it comes to disguising pitches, if I don't know if that's the right terminology, but just having it
like
not look this. Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you go kind of about working on that specifically?
So I just want to ask one more question, make sure we're on the same page. Are you
Yeah, yeah.
talking about as far as like tipping, like not knowing here, or are you talking about like out of the hand
Out of
for it
hand.
to
Out of
all look
hand.
like a fastball until it's not?
The latter point. Yeah, out of hand.
Okay, yeah. So I think a lot of times it depends on, like we were talking about earlier, like release height, slot, uh, arsenal, everything like that. But for me, the way I kind of look at it is obviously I want everything to look as similar as possible to the last second. My arsenal, if you look at a plot, like the XY plot, is like straight vertical. Like it got the fastballs, I got sliders, then I got, or I guess fastball cutter, slider, and then curveball. So everything to a hitter is going to look either ball strike or strike ball, or, I could go strike strike if I started maybe like middle up. But in that sense, it's like now they don't really know, if that makes sense, if it's going to be in the zone or not, till the last second. Like, whereas if I had, maybe a two seam with that, like it wouldn't make sense in my case because it doesn't play well with the curveball. It might could go with like my gyro or something, but I'm trying to blend all those pitches. I want all those pitches to look the same. I don't just want my fastball and curveball to come out of here. I want my fastball, curveball, cutter, slider, all to come out of there. So, there's different analytics now. Pitching coach has actually introduced me to oh gosh, what is it? I just blanked on it. Anyway, it's an angle out of the hand now. I think it's like vertical release angle. It's not vertical approach angle. VAA is how
Yeah.
a ball kind of comes through the zone. So like front to back of the zone, that angle. It's actually vertical release angle, I believe is what it's called.
Okay.
And it has to do with the angle that the ball comes out of your hand at. And so
Okay.
if the more you blink, whoa, we got a happy birthday balloons. I didn't know that happened.
I think it's the
But,
auto thing on your computer. Yeah, I got you.
sorry.
That's happened for me too.
But
You
yeah,
did the thumbs up earlier. Yeah.
yeah, the vertical release angle will kind of show you like on the curveball, if it gets above like 2, that is kind of like popping to a hitter. And then also just verbal feedback, from my catcher and hitter and catch play partner, pitching coach, like, hey, does this, look like my stuff? Because, numbers can tell us what they want to tell us, but hitters are in the end going to tell you, this is a good pitch, this is not. So
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And when you say the vertical angle, do you mean like, because there's the release point and then angle? Do you mean like the angle of your hand? Is that what you're talking about?
it's a vertical release angle. So it's literally, I'm acting like I'm pitching this way now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the way this ball releases my hand, if it comes out at this angle,
Gotcha.
that's your vertical release angle. It doesn't have anything to do with like your release point. Like you're still going to get a vertical release angle from, wherever you're at. Obviously, you're going to tend to get different numbers based on, where you are behind a ball, but it's the way it comes out of the hand. So like the curveball, typically guys will have a higher vertical release angle because it's going to come out of the hand like this, because it has to come out a little bit to be able to go down and still be in the zone.
Absolutely.
But
I get you now.
minimizing the difference between your fastball and curveball and slider, cutter, that means out of the hand, hitter doesn't notice it's different, because hitters really don't, I guess, recognize like slider, curveball, like they just recognize different, like fastball, not fastball. So trying to get it to look like that fastball as long as and as much as possible.
Absolutely, man. That's a great breakdown. I want to also ask you one last analytical question, though, is just kind of, are there times when you don't, or like you maybe actively or even just a little bit passively don't want to use analytics? Like, are there some things that you're like, I don't know, I just feel like this isn't, I don't need to, not that you don't need to follow the math, but it's maybe not as important.
Yeah, I mean, I think in game, like I'm never
Situation,
in
maybe. Hmm.
things like going and looking at track bands like, oh no, like my curveball's not this today or my slider's not
Hmm.
that today. Like I know when I go out there on the mound what feels good that day, what looks good, what hitters are telling me by their swings. And I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna dominate, I'm gonna compete with the stuff I got that day. I don't care if maybe it's not my great curveball or like I'm not getting the induced vertical break that I'm wanting on the heater that day. Like I'm just gonna go out there and compete with what I got. And maybe afterwards, maybe I can go reflect and be like, hey, maybe I did, this with my wrist just a little bit, and that's why I wasn't getting this. Or, my mechanics were seeked up, my arm wasn't getting up on time, so that's why I wasn't through the ball as much and not getting as much ride. So I think like it's more of a good reflective tool and maybe like bullpen preseason tool more than like in-game tool where I'm like, oh, I've got to change this. Like, I don't care what
Hmm.
the numbers say during the game. I just care if we get, my 3 outs.
Yeah,
So
I think. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that just to give the listeners an idea, like I think that what we were talking about before, and then the difference is what ends up blowing up on the internet. So say the infamous, agree disagree, the Blake Snell being pulled from the World Series, for example, where people are like, "What are you doing? Like he's doing great in the moment. Don't look at the analytics and whatnot." I think that there's just so many different situations, I guess, that arise. But hey, it seems to be helping you out, Tyson. For everybody who doesn't know, only player in Kansas State history to receive 7 All-American accolades in a single season. I frankly didn't even know that was possible, but you did it. So congrats to you, sir. I also want to tell you, did you know that MLB.com, in their summary of you, they mentioned that Neighbors reminds some scouts of Craig Kimbrell with his compact, muscular frame and high energy delivery. Did you know that? And also, when you hear that, what do you think?
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, to get compared to someone, at the caliber as Craig Kimbrell. But I mean, obviously, I think our pitching, like, I think the way we go about pitching is similar and our
Hmm.
builds are similar. But
Hmm.
like, he's a low slot guy with good carry
Yeah.
and curveball. Obviously, I'm like way up here with like some funky looking tilt. And like, looking at the pitching, he's like, oh, maybe they're not similar, but I do get the high energy, high effort delivery,
Hmm.
and big situational guy. And I mean, it's awesome always to get matched up with those guys. But this is an interesting fact. Side note: in the draft meetings that we had, I met with all 30 teams,
Hmm.
and I had one repeat, and I always asked all of them because I just like to go and like look at all these videos of people that I think I remind them of, and I only had one repeat the entire time for who I reminded them of. Like every single meeting I would go into, every team would give me a different guy every time.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. It'd be so interesting because some people would go off like kind of personality or demeanor. Some people would go off
Yeah.
build. Some people would go off like pure analytics, like Arsenal. And it's cool to see. And I think it kind of goes to show kind of how I've built myself up as a pitcher is like taking bits and pieces of information and mechanics and drills and all this stuff from different people and all kind of blending it into one. And I think it kind of shows my uniqueness in the fact that, I don't really just, that is so and so.
Absolutely, man. Can you say which the repeat player was? The
It
player
was
comp?
James Karnchek for
Oh,
the yeah for the
Karen check or
yeah
yes. Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
yeah
For formerly of
Guardians
the
I think.
Guardians. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a fun one. That's a fun one for sure, man. Love that. James Karinchak. Fun fact for the listeners, not nearly as fun as yours. I had on my fantasy baseball team one year. That was very helpful. So Tyson, before we kind of conclude all of this, we're going to get into, mailbag, not mailbag, rapid fire. I forgot my own segments. A rapid fire segment. Just talk to Tyson about some fun questions and whatnot. And we'll do that in just a second, guys. But first, one more word from our sponsors. We'll be right back. That's right, everybody. One more sponsor for you. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, the Gatorade, whatever you want to do, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill, the excitement, the electricity from kickoff to the final whistle. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. How about that for a deal, guys? That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. And like I said, everybody, we are right back here at the Locked On Padres podcast, thriving and vibing as always. Tyson, we are back. Rapid fire time. Let's begin. Which is some fun stuff because I couldn't find anything. One of my favorite things, I like looking on Instagram, seeing if people follow like famous actors. I saw you were following Michael B. Jordan, The Rock. So those are some pretty good ones to start off with, frankly. But what was, speaking of Hollywood, what was the last movie that you watched?
Oh,
I love that response.
I'm not like an avid movie watcher. Honestly, didn't even know that I was following. I knew I was following The Rock. I didn't even know I was following Michael B. Jordan, to be honest with you. I think it ends with us. I think I saw that with my girlfriend like 4 months ago. I think it's like that.
Oh, the Blake Lively one, yeah.
Yeah. I know it was like a book, and they made it into a movie, and I went and saw it. Yeah.
That's funny. And anyone who's been following weird controversies with that movie going on as we speak that we don't have to get into, just real life stuff, don't worry. But that's a funny one to say. When it comes to, I guess, I don't know, if you had a last meal, death row meal, what are you going with?
I'm going to a hibachi place and getting chicken and steak fried rice.
Is there a specific place? Is there a specific place you'd go to? Anything?
There's one that me and my girlfriend really like in Manhattan, Kansas. It's called Umi. We've been to a lot. I really like that one. There's also one kind of closer to where I live in Texas, called Kyoto. That's really good. But yeah, I just got to get the double ginger sauce. I'm not going with the yum yum.
Okay.
Salad before and the soup. It's a great meal, and you always have like leftovers, and it's still good when you warm it up. It's just it's really good.
Isn't it the best when it's like you just save, you get an extra meal just in case. You know what I mean? Oh, it's perfect. I love it. And there's sauces.
Yeah, I don't mind paying $30 instead of $20 for a meal when I get an extra meal out of it.
Agreed 100%, man. One of the things also in the Fangraphs article, again, the vibe was it was just, you describing yourself, also a self-described nerd. What's something, if anything else, that you're nerdy about outside of baseball?
I think, honestly, just my ADHD, I find random things that I just like geek out about. Like I'm just all in for that one thing for like a couple
classic
months. And then it's just like, okay, like I know it now, and it's just stored away. But it's like I'm just like that random fact guy. It's just like,
oh yeah,
I feel like I'm good at trivia just because I randomly dive into stuff, and I don't know. I don't know if there's a certain thing that I'm kind of nerdy about or whatever outside of baseball. I really like to hunt and fish, and I love that. I'm always watching YouTube videos on that outside of baseball, and I'm just trying to get my mind away. I play the show a lot. Like MLB The Show and college football. So I'd say those are kind of hobbies, but maybe not some deep dive.
Not as much. You just have your moments or two. Hey,
sometimes,
I watched like a bunch of Oliver Stone movies recently, did a movie on JFK. I went down the Wikipedia deep dive for like a week and then it flees. I don't know what, but yeah, I relate to that. Do you have a kind of just a favorite musical artist?
I mean, I really just like listening to country music. Guys I listen to often are like Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, Zach Top, Reed Southall Band, Trudy Oak Revival. I don't know, a lot of them.
A lot of them. Are these? Do you listen to these like before the game or on the trip to the game or anything like that?
I mean, sometimes I feel like before the game though, I'm like 90s rock or early 2000s or rap music. Like I feel like that's more like a lock-in music, and then just like relax and chill at the house. Like I'm listening to country music or driving.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, that's my vibe too. That's what I would expect. I don't know why I said that. Like country music, my vibe is like, all right, rest of the day, we had our moment. Let's play some country music now. I relate to that. For me, it's like an Eminem thing. If for whatever reason I have to be locked in, I'll just play that and get myself angry or something like that.
outside of baseball, and don't get yourself in trouble, do you have a favorite college memory?
I can't. I have no idea. I'm just
Nah.
thinking like everything right now. I'm just thinking baseball.
Mhm.
Shoot. Honestly, just the whole trip and like the different trips we get to go on, just like the bus rides. They're all. I mean,
Bus rides, yeah.
yeah, tons of fun memories in there. Just like playing Mafia or like we even brought back. I don't know if you remember Among Us. It was like a phone game. We
Yeah.
like brought that back. Just our team. We're on the back of the bus, like 15 of us playing like Among Us. But
Yeah.
trips like that, and like we got to go out to Cali a few times, just like go to the beach, or going to Arlington for the Big 12 tournament, like kind of being back home, going to Six Flags, things like that. I guess
Among
that's
Us,
kind of what comes to mind. I don't know if like a certain memory of it, just like vibing with the boys is kind of the whole, I guess, memory part.
oh man. I mean, you just unlocked something for me with Among Us. I mean, I know what it is, but it's just funny thinking back on like the
Yeah.
period of time when that movie was first, or that game was first coming out. Was
Yeah.
Man, it was just fun. It was fun that we were just like killing each other as the world was not exactly the greatest space. That the game that blew up was, hey, let's stab each other in the back and whatnot. Love Among Us very, very much. Shout out to them. Did you guys play like on mobile or something like that? Because I think they have it on mobile, right?
On the bus, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd bring my monitor and my PlayStation, and I'd be on the bus like playing the show. Just like long bus rides, like hotspotting on my phone and grind it out.
Hey man, you play Road to the Show, 3 hours will go by just like that. You know what I mean? With regular, my gosh,
like,
dude.
oh gosh, we're almost there.
It's one of those things where I'm scared to get the game because I know myself, and I'm like, if I play Road to the Show, there's something about take my 4 at bats, sim to the next game, boom, and it takes 2 seconds. I don't know, man. It's a little bit too dangerous.
I'm
but
more into like the Diamond Dynasty and Ultimate Team.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited. Hopefully next year get like the real 99. Have you seen those?
No, I have not.
They give out to like minor league and major league players. They give, if you play the game and you like submit it that you play the game and your gamer tag, whatever, they give you your own 99 to use in Ultimate Team. But it's called the real 99. So only that player has that card. Like it could be, say, like the highest overall cards in 88, like early in the game. Like I would have like 99 that only I could use.
Is it like players using themselves, or
yes, players using themselves.
So cool.
It's only
so like if you face someone, if you face someone and it says like real, I don't know why Justin Upton came to mind. You'd be like, I'm playing against Justin Upton right now.
Yeah, that's
That's amazing.
No one else in the world can get the card but him.
So, that's amazing. I have not seen this. That's actually phenomenal. Shouts to MLB The Show.
My roommate Kalen Culpepper, he's the first rounder with the Twins. He's got his real 99. I'm jealous. I'm like, yeah, I need that.
That is so cool. I have never heard of this. This is awesome, and I'm like a big video game nerd, so this is very shocking to me. Couple more questions though. You've got a lot of athletes in the Neighbors family. Do you have any particularly highly competitive moments that you can remember, or anything that like something that people might not expect that you guys would get really competitive about, even if it's Connect 4 or whatever?
I mean, in anything, I've said this a couple of times on like different podcasts, but literally anything we play, I try to win and have the biggest margin of win ever. I've beat my brother. He can attest to this. He might not want to, but I beat my little brother in Madden like 249-0. Like I'm not gonna let him get that courtesy touchdown or like I'm literally going to score as many points as I can, and we're gonna talk crap the entire time, and that's just is what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're playing cards, anything. Like it is just all of us are trying to annihilate one another. There's no nice part about it, and I think people probably outside of our family see us like, what are they doing? Like it's just a game, and we're like, no, this is life or death. Like,
yeah, I feel that.
How competitive we are.
I feel that, and especially Madden, man, because when you start losing, it's like a domino effect, man. I think they added momentum to those games, so that's just mean. That's just mean, man.
Like the meme where they're like leaning forward and like
yeah.
but it's just not helping him. He's still just getting spanked.
It's just
not
an
good.
avalanche, man. That's cruel. That's cruel. I mean,
And then,
I get
and then,
annoyed when I'm down by like 40 or something like
yeah, and, then,
that.
and it doesn't help that I'm just chirping them the whole time and like I'm gonna quit. And I'm like, you can't quit. That's so soft. You can't quit. Like, I'm not a quitter. Like it just goes on and on. Like,
I would just get silent. That's what would happen. If you're beating me 200, I just don't speak. That's what I would and then I like leave the room. That would be me.
Yeah.
Love that. Final two questions. We're not too far off, as evidenced by people who are listening, watching the podcast, of today's title sponsor, Super Bowl. I also saw you played football in high school. So you must be, possibly, I don't want to assume, a football fan. Do you have a favorite NFL team? And then perhaps even more importantly, who do you got winning the whole thing?
Well, going to college in Kansas, I've never really had a true NFL team, but I've kind of just gravitated towards the Chiefs. And my girlfriend and her family are all Chiefs fans. Her dad is okay with the Chiefs, but he's a Steelers fan. But
Okay with them, though. Okay.
they get tickets on the 50-yard line, like 5 rows up to every game. So it was a cool experience going there. I've been to Cowboys games and I went to a Cardinals game, funny enough, Cardinals Seahawks game for my birthday a long time ago. But the atmosphere at the Chiefs Stadium is more like college-like to me. Like it's that tailgating, like everybody's rowdy, everyone's into it. Whereas like some of the other NFL games I've been to has just been like, it's just not the same. Like not as engaged. You know, maybe I just went to a good game. I don't know, but Arrowhead was just all in. You know, so I've kind of fell in love with that team. You know, I mess around with my friends and tell them like, oh yeah, I just buy the T-shirt of whoever won the Super Bowl the year before, and I'm just a total bandwagon.
Hey, I
like,
mean,
I'm like, no, bro. Like I lived in Kansas for a little while.
I'm almost starting to think bandwagon is the way, because I'm a Chargers fan and it's like the worst decision I've ever made in my entire life. Like it's just like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, you know what? I'm happy for people who just choose whatever makes them happy, frankly. And I imagine you've got the Chiefs winning it. So that's pretty cool. But you know, I may or may not be rooting for the other team, but we'll see.
It's hard to bet against Mahomes. I mean, I saw a deal the other day. He's 7-0 in one possession games in the playoffs, and that's the best, obviously, record of all time. Tom Brady had a 55% win rate in playoff games and one score games, and you know Mahomes is 7-0 currently. Not saying it couldn't happen, but
I was just about to say
it would be hard to not root or bet against him, I guess.
I wouldn't bet against him, but as a believer in the law of averages, you gotta lose one at some point, I guess, right? So we'll see how that shakes up, guys. Everybody, hopefully you enjoy the game, whenever it is. Maybe you're watching this for some reason afterwards. Lastly, Tyson, what is the best advice, just on a little bit more serious note, what is the best advice you think you've ever gotten?
I think honestly, just like enjoying the process and learning to love the process, and also like even furthermore, like just the little things, like having certain goals and stuff you set for yourself, maybe like on a daily perspective, like hourly perspective, things like that all kind of work towards your big goal. We were actually reading a book. We had like a book club in this little mini camp, and it was like the Arnold Schwarzenegger book. And he talked about, you know, creating those little goals, then making sure that like you're kind of checking yourself and aligning yourself. Like, would I be doing this with being in the big leagues in mind, or like being a Hall of Famer, you know, like being elite level big leaguer? Would I be doing X, Y, Z? Does this line up, you know, with that goal? And making those small daily goals into, you know, your weekly goal or your monthly goal, and then kind of, you know, reevaluating and things like that. But, you know, enjoying the process. If you don't enjoy what you do, and, you know, you're doing it for, you know, monetary things or things of that sort, like it's going to fizzle out. You're not going to, you know, be at your best, but, you know, enjoying those little things and knowing that it's going to allow you to compete at a high level and, you know, achieve your goal, having that plan A only mindset, like screw plan B, like this is my plan. This is what's going to happen. Put all your effort and energy into, you know, that one thing that, you know, more than likely you're going to accomplish that.
Well said, sir. Maybe not always just focusing on the end goal, but also just the daily stuff, giving yourself daily affirmations, man. I agree very, very much. Tyson, this has been a blast, dude. Wishing you all the luck on the upcoming season. If you guys want to follow Tyson, go check him out on Twitter or Instagram. And of course, check out I think I said Lake Eisner Storm, so my apologies at the beginning.
No,
I think I just read from, did I? Okay. So Lake Elsinore, I think I might have said Eisner at the top of the podcast. I'll recheck it and whatnot, but everybody go check him out. And with that said, you've been listening to the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Go check it out. Baseball is going to be right around the corner, guys. We'll be back on Monday. Send me your questions to have a chance at being answered in the Monday mailbag. Until next time, though, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful, my Friar Faithful homies.